your squad looking injury-wise at the moment?
The obvious ones that we talked about over the last couple of weeks, Jack O'Connell out for the season, Leach Mousset looking to get back on the grass, another 6 to 8 weeks away. John Fleck out for the next month. So obviously 3 big players for us missing. So disappointed in that. But apart from that, everybody else is okay. We're waiting on Max Lowe from a doctor's report regarding his injury that he suffered on Sunday afternoon, which was obviously disappointing for us yet again, but certainly for Max on his debut in the Premier League debut, because he's done fantastically well for us since he's been in the building and fully deserved that opportunity.
How would you say Rhian Brewster's settling in?
Yeah, good. He's an infectious character. It was a difficult decision for me on Sunday whether to start him or whether to bring him off the bench. But he's obviously had another week's training, so he's put himself right in the frame to certainly being involved at the weekend, and obviously to start as well. He's really at the forefront of our thinking.
You said after that the Fulham game that it's hard work at the moment, obviously, the way things are going, but you've always had a great team spirit at the club. When you're in a run like this, how much does that spirit get tested? Yeah,
100%. I think it's quite easy for every club when they're going well to say we've got a fantastic group of players and a great team spirit. These are the times where you're certainly right on that. It does get tested, and no bigger test than going to Anfield on Saturday night, regardless of the situation there and a couple of injuries that they've got to world-class players. I'm still not expecting anything less than an 100% performance from them, and one that we totally respect on that. But yeah, it does. So we all have to dig in, work a little bit harder, stick together, stick to our beliefs as a group. What has got us to this situation? Believe in the shape, even though we can tweak it now and again. The shape's been great for us. The system's been good for us. There is in that situation opportunities to change it in personnel. The biggest thing for me, which I said after the game, is the belief and confidence that obviously doesn't get affected. I thought the first half was a really decent performance against Fulham. And stating the obvious, if we go in at half time up in the game, which we surely should have been, that changes the atmosphere and the belief and confidence in the players in a heartbeat. But it wasn't the case, and obviously we have to go again on Saturday.
Are you seeing enough in those performances and in training and in that belief in the players that does make you think that sooner or later the results are going to start coming for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think everybody who's watched us through this period, through a difficult period of decent performances, I don't think there've been, any halves of games where you can think, well, dear me, we're all over the place. This is not what we're about from a physical point of view, from a technical point of view, from a mentality point of view. We've been overrun and we're all over the place. We've been involved in it in every game, and especially on the training ground, there is a big belief. They're a very positive group of players that worked extremely hard to get into this position. And but they understand that good performances, which I think they've been okay performances. There's been bits and pieces in there that obviously have not been good enough where we can improve, but the general standard has been okay. And obviously taking into account some of the injuries that we've had as well, we have to believe that a result is round the corner, and that's what we've got to try and put together. We've got to put together a good performance and obviously back that up with a result.
And as far as Liverpool are concerned, you mentioned the injuries they've got. I mean, Virgil van Dijk's a massive blow for them, obviously. But even so, we saw it last night in the Champions League. They'd got a different centre-back pairing, but it still managed to look pretty solid.
It's all relative, isn't it, Fraser? Us losing Jack O'Connell and John Fleck and Mousset are huge blows for us. I would say bigger blows to us than what Virgil van Dijk is to Liverpool, really, in my opinion, for us, as we look as a football club. So we all have to go through this period. We all have to go through these situations. But there's still some world-class players there. And even though they might have lost a world-class player for a lengthy period of time, they've got some really good players that can fit into that, an academy that obviously produces players all the time. And still they've got those three at the top of the pitch that can hurt anybody on the day. So we understand we've got to play somewhere near our absolute maximum and best to give ourselves any opportunity of getting a result. But we'll go there and we'll see what we can do.
They're in the news again because the big story that was knocking around earlier this week was the possibility of them playing in a European Premier League. I mean, we were talking about football governance only the week before and the possibility of the bigger clubs getting more power. But if they go into a European Premier League, that could change the landscape in this country even more, couldn't it?
Yeah, 100%. As you can imagine, I've got all on Fraser in terms of looking at our club at the moment from a footballing point of view and a strictly footballing point of view. So I've not really took much interest in it. I made my views pretty loud and clear last week regarding supporters of these football clubs, and I'm sure that they'll have a huge say in terms of what happens at their football clubs. But I think we all have to look at the preserving what we've got in this country in terms of the pyramid, and even outside the 92 football league clubs, and look after that. Obviously, these clubs have their own agendas and are driven by their owners who have that ability to take their football club where they want to take it. But it is a unique, fabulous footballing pyramid that we're all involved in, and I'm sure everybody will do whatever they need to do to make that consistent and improve going forward.
Just finally from me, I don't know how much of a social media man you are yourself.
Not, mate.
Not much, I wouldn't have thought so. But obviously we had the PFA report out yesterday, which showed that a lot of players are getting an incredible amount of online abuse. Does that something that worries you about your own players? Do you have a policy of trying to make sure that you protect your players from getting that kind of abuse online?
Yeah, we do. I'm not a great lover of it. If I'm honest, I'm not on any sort of platforms at all. I understand what it does in a positive way, but there's certainly a massive negative part of it. And yeah, players have been abused before, and I've always said and been consistent with my view that the regulators need to do a lot more to keep that safe and intact, because. It does open itself up to what you just said, and that is that's pretty depressing at times, and not right really in my opinion and thought.
Thanks very much, Chris.
Cheers, Fraser. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Chris. Morning. It's Andy from Radio Sheffield here.
Hey, Andy.
Just to follow on from the social media thing, I appreciate it's a personal choice for an individual to go on these things or not, but can clubs, Sheffield United or any other club, just say to the guys, look, lads, just don't bother, leave it alone if we're advising you to do that?
Well, it's a personal option, isn't it, and a personal decision. So these players are human beings and have to make their own mind up what they want to do, and certainly, as I said, it isn't for me posting everything about my life and what I'm up to and what I'm eating and what I'm doing and what I'm going to everybody else. Quite a private person, and enjoyed that. But obviously, off the back of that, the club have stipulations and have guidance to these players and especially the younger players to tread very carefully in terms of what they do and what they post. But overall, it's the FA have obviously got their guidance and their protocol as well, to making sure that there's rules and regulations regarding what gets posted. But it is a personal decision, Andy, and I've got to respect that the players have that ability to make their own decisions for themselves.
Football-wise, what in sort of your analysis, what are you specifically looking for improvements in over the course of the next few weeks and months?
Consistent performances. Players getting back to the standard that they've set. As I talked about after the Fulham game, I think a couple of players are below the standards and below par in what they've set. I think the squad's in good shape in terms of the players that we've brought in, and the age and the quality that we have brought in. The obvious is that to get those injured players back fit, Mousset and Fleck. Obviously, O'Connell is a real blow to us, which we've talked about. To be a little bit more clinical, especially at the top of the pitch, because the performance was a decent first half performance, and football and sport is all about belief and confidence. And who's to say that if we'd have taken a couple of those chances in our big period of the match, how that affects the match, how it affects the scoreline, how it affects the opposition's mentality, how it affects, more importantly, our mentality. So we have to keep strong through this period. We've got some huge games coming up and some really tough ones, but we've talked about it before. This is the reason that we're in the Premier League, and we have to accept that and not moan and groan about it and get on with it and look forward to it. And look forward to the challenge that is set in playing world-class players, especially over the next 3 games. Hopefully something will spark us off to regain that belief, a good performance, a big result, and hopefully we're off and running. Disappointed that we didn't get more out of the game. Honest, yet again, in terms of my appraisal of the game, we should be coming in at half-time up in the game. And as I said, who knows what happens to Fulham then? Does that really put them on the back foot? Do they have to come out a little bit more and we catch them a little bit more? And does that give, more importantly, the belief and confidence that my players are lacking a touch in their individual performances? You can talk about systems all day long, and I know there'll be a debate about systems and about getting sussed and stuff like that. I think that's quite easy to say as well, and it does bring a little bit of a smile to my face when pundits talk about systems, and other people talk about systems quite blandly, without coming up with why we have been sussed, and what are the reasons that we've been sussed or found out. I certainly don't believe it's true. Used to love listening to Chris Waddle on 5 Live, because he'd identify a problem and he'd say to the listeners what that problem was and how to affect it. So my opinion on the system is that it's okay. The players have just got to play better in the system. And if they do that, they give themselves a better opportunity of producing performance stroke result.
It's this way, just to link the two themes of what we've been talking about already, some kind of perspective is needed then, because they're going to get bombarded with comments, aren't they? Whether that's on TV, in the newspapers, on their phones, just ignore it.
You can't get away from it. That's one of the things that we talked about, the noise. We all get it, and sometimes you will use it, sometimes it winds us up. We can't get away from it. It's the Premier League. It's on us. It's on us 24/7. My love is football, so as you can imagine, what I watch away from Shirecliffe and Bramall Lane is pretty much sport-based and pretty much football-based. So, unfortunately, at times you can't just mute it and turn off. And I've got to say, like I've said about Chris, like I've said about the likes of Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher and Danny Murphy and a couple of others, I really respect their opinions and understand where they're coming from. But like I said, you can't get away from the noise at times, and it's something that you have to put with because of the league and the media coverage it gets.
You obviously played Liverpool twice last year. What did you learn about taking them on from those experiences, particularly, I suppose, given the match this weekend at Anfield?
Yeah, I thought it really hit home to our football club. The occasion and the atmosphere at home, and one yet again, and games we are being deprived of, and the effect that our supporters really had on our team and have had on our team. It's quite extraordinary how they've lifted me as well, and through good times and through bad times. But certainly the game at home was a really special occasion. I think the week before that Jurgen had just been named World Manager of the Year, and I think they'd won the FIFA game, the World Club Championship, I think, in around that time as well. So we weren't just taking on a really good side, but we're taking on the European and world champions, and it was a tight game. And I thought it showed what the Premier League's about. Tight margins. They found a way to win through an unfortunate mistake, and we just couldn't find that goal that I believe our play deserved. And there's a way to go about your performance, and I thought we did in the right manner. Ultimately, we didn't get anything from the game, but certainly from an occasion. And Sheffield United being back in the Premier League, I've got to say, and I should imagine echo a lot of thoughts of our supporters. It was being right up there what they've witnessed over quite a long time, even though it ended in defeat. I thought in the return game, we obviously made an unfortunate mistake early on, and we stayed alive for the majority of the game. We weren't at our best, and I just thought that really just showed what Liverpool were about and what really took them to the title. It was a stock Liverpool performance from a physical point of view. The players that they had at the top of the pitch, their attitude towards the game, even though they were playing Sheffield United, and that was echoed as well afterwards in terms of what the manager said to me in the office afterwards, and the respect that he had for us. So we had to gain that respect through our performances last year, and we've got to do that and go again this year. And the bigger picture is it's a fabulous game to be involved with, and that's how the players should be looking at it.
Great, Tar. Best of luck.
Cheers, Andy.
Tar.
Morning, Chris. It's James from TalkSport.
Hey, James.
Chris, Rhian Brewster, he's had another week on the training field. Any hesitation whatsoever about chucking him in against his old club?
No hesitation really. So he's pushing, as we talked about last week before the game. Obviously, natural ability and talent is there to be seen by everybody, and everybody's seen that already. It's just obviously from the physical side of it, not opening him up to injury. Not damaging him early on in his Sheffield United career, because, we want him to play. We want to get him into the team. Always the big decision from the manager is the timing of that. But certainly a week's training wouldn't have done him any harm at all, and he's been bright and bubbly, and definitely in our thoughts to start on Saturday evening.
Liverpool without Van Dijk, Alisson, potentially Joel Matip as well. How much do you think that could change the dynamic of the game?
Sheffield United without Jack O'Connor, Mousset and Fleck, there's always players that are going to be out injured, and obviously they've had a really good run at it, as we did last year, and it affects consistency, and it affects rhythm. It has done from our point of view. I'm not so sure how much it would do from their point of view, because of the world class players that they've got to come into the positions that are obviously vacated. We all want our best team out there. We all want our most consistent team out there, and it doesn't make the task any easier with those players missing. There'll be players that can comfortably step in as they did last night to the shape of the team, and really the performance level of the team really didn't dip, and I'm not expecting it to do on Saturday.
You've said there's big belief on the training field, but at what point would you start to worry about the results?
Well, it's a long season. The only time really you can reflect is at the end of the season, which I said last year. So, we've just got to keep picking up points and go through this process. I think Sean Dyche explained it perfectly. Their team has been in the situation that they're in for a few years. So you stay calm. You believe in what you're doing on the training ground, what you've done in your career as a manager, what the players have done in their careers, and you stick with it. It can hurt you, the Premier League, of course it can, but still a hell of a lot way to go. It's not the start that we've wanted. But, possibly, you look at it and go, is this the realistic situation that we should be in? Do we have people, outside? Because I've certainly not got ahead of themselves and thinking, it's going to be another top 10 finish for Sheffield United. I don't think anything sets us up to guarantee that off the pitch and what we do off the pitch. So the players have to recognise that we've been involved in some really tight games. I think if you've watched them, and obviously I have, and a lot of people have watched them, there's not been a lot in all the games that we've played. We've just got to try and turn those sort of losses into draws and draws into wins. Certainly, first half performance against Fulham was decent enough to come in at half time, up in the game. We didn't take the chances. We didn't put them to bed as Wolves put us to bed. And unfortunately allowed the opposition to get back into the game, and that's what the Premier League is all about. There's no real opportunities to guarantee yourself 3 points, and we understand that, and we've got to do our absolute maximum in every game, performance-wise, to give ourselves that opportunity.
And just finally from me, Chris, another match this weekend behind a paywall. Are you surprised it's going to cost Sheffield United fans £14.95 still to watch the game this weekend after all the complaints we had in recent days?
Yeah, a lot has been said, and I spoke about it last week. I made my points clear on it last week. It's far from ideal. My job is to, is to sympathise as well as I obviously do. Hugely sympathise with what's happening, not just with that, but other situations in football. But focus, as you can imagine, James, has been trying to affect what I can affect, which is the team, and trying to pick the right team and get them in the right frame of mind for an incredibly tough game on Saturday night.
Cheers, Chris. Good luck.
Thank you. Thanks.
Morning, Chris. Andy from PLP. We talked about the confidence and belief. They're the two words that keep cropping up. Is that simply born from results, or is there anything more that can be done by yourself or the staff, or does it simply come down to picking up the wins?
I'd like to think I'm if you know me, I'm not leaving any stone unturned in terms of what we can do as a staff and me as a manager. But I've gone on record in terms of talking about last year, which we can reflect back on and use their experiences and look at, the goal at Bournemouth in the last minute, what that gave belief to the players, the really tight win against Palace, the draw at Chelsea last minute, the comeback there when we were 2-0 down. So, sticking the ball in the back of net is the biggest thing that gives you that confidence and belief. And we've had opportunities in all the games. I would say there isn't much difference. There is a difference, but it's not a huge difference between our first 4 or 5 performances last year to the first 4 and 5 performances this year. I wouldn't say the wheels have fallen off this year, and we were incredibly good last year in the first 4 or 5 games. But the difference is that we scored at crucial times. We took chances at crucial times. We didn't make mistakes at crucial times, which we have done this year. And that affects the scoreline and obviously the points tally. And I think after 5 games, we were sat on 4 points at that stage. I don't know if that was right. 4 or 5 points at that stage after 5 games, and we've got 1 now. So performance-wise, not chalk and cheese. So we have to take encouragement from that. But the biggest thing, Andy, is obviously taking your chances, and that hugely affects not just your team, but the confidence of the team that you're playing against.
I suppose as well, the other word that you mentioned earlier on today is spirit. And we've talked about the battling qualities of this team before. How crucial is it that you have a team, a squad with those qualities, given the current situation?
Well, we have to, because of the other things where we're not on par with every other Premier League club. So we have to use whatever we have to do. And the battling qualities have been there in all the games, because you've seen it. You've seen it at Arsenal, second half, and coming back into the game, the tight game against Leeds, the battling qualities having gone 2-0 down after 5 minutes against Wolves, down to 10 men after 10 minutes against Villa, and a tight game against Fulham. So no white flag going up at all, Andy, because that's not what the team's about. And as I said all along, it certainly won't be on my watch. But we need to do a little bit more. Players need to raise their standards a little bit more, and hopefully, if we do get a big performance and a big result somewhere, that'll give them the belief that we're all looking for. But sometimes as well, they've got to look for that from within as well. And as I said, the Fulham performance was okay, okay to good first half, and obviously they wrestled back the initiative second half because we never put them to bed. So if we do score in the big moments, get the first goal when the game is tight, who knows what direction the game goes there. But it certainly doesn't disadvantage us to be a little bit more clinical in our play when the time is right.
And know all the injury talk, like we've talked about this morning, is surrounding Virgil van Dijk from Liverpool. But I just want to focus on John Fleck and missing for a month. What does he kind of give the team that you're going to be missing over the next month or so?
He doesn't give us much at the moment, because I think he's laid up in a bed somewhere.
Yeah.
So he was a top player for us last year. So was Jack O'Connell, and Mousset was assists and what he brought to the team. So I understand what Liverpool supporters will be thinking, and what an effect that obviously missing a huge player for them will have on their team, even though they've got some fantastic players to come into that group. And I think people will recognise that missing John, missing Jack, and missing Lys Mousset are huge blows for us. And in our situation, ones that really do hurt us, possibly more than what they really do at Liverpool.
And just one final one from me. When you're taking on a side like Liverpool, regardless of injury news and anything like that, an excellent side like Liverpool, what's the key to performing? Is it getting on the front foot immediately, regardless of whether there's a crowd there or not?
A big start, a big middle bit, and a big finish. And hopefully they don't bring their A game and we bring our A-star game to the table. You've got to have a lot of things go your way to get any sort of result at Anfield, because nobody's done it for quite a long time now. Over a year or whatever, is it? Or possibly more, longer?
A year and a half, I think.
Year and a half. So, but we're going in belief that we can get something, and it's no good getting on the bus if we don't think we can get anything out of the game. So, tight game at our place last year, and pretty comfortable for them at their place. But I don't think I've ever gone into a football match expecting to lose and not getting anything out of the game, and that's not my way of thinking. It won't be the players, and anything can happen. Anything can happen on the day, and we've got to believe that. But we have to certainly bring our A game to the table to get any sort of result.
Top man. Thanks, Chris. Best of luck in the week.
Thank you, and you. Cheers.
We'll go on to the written section now. I'll let you guys sort out the embargo.